You're on the road at this point. I mean, what, almost a whole year? Almost every week, right? I mean, is that
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're on the road 250 plus
Whew.
days a year.
That's a lot. I'm a road comic, and that my body hurts from traveling. You guys, you land, you work out, you train. I mean, is there time to party?
Well, look, we made time for that. by all means, yeah. There's certainly the one thing is that there was always after the show, and so and clearly at this point in my career, I was least good about waiting until after the show. I would get to a point to where it was any time of day if I felt like it. But no, it is. Look, it was. You mentioned it earlier. It was a kind of a rock star lifestyle. It could be a lot of fun, and you could be obviously the life of the party, a pretty popular guy. It was not a bad gig, shall we say?
Now, what's a weekly routine? So you had at that point Raw was coming on. So you had Mondays, and you guys would be traveling all week. How did you get your training in? And like as an athlete, as a football player, we had to get 4 workouts in each week before the week, and you had to do it on your own. Did you have everything slotted? Like, all right, I had my train time here, I had my party time here, I had, my preparation time here. How was a weekly schedule for you guys? You travel on this day because as athletes, we're all creatures of habit. Especially, you guys. I mean, watching this stuff, you guys taking so much beatings. How did you recover? Like, what was that weekly schedule like?
Well, so the days off. So we got to the schedule where we're doing Raw on Monday, but Monday doing Raw would be the last event. So you'd go home Tuesday morning. You'd have the rest of the day, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You'd be at home if you didn't have other appearances or something of that nature. That was your rest time. That was obviously, you're still training, in the afternoon. But Friday, you fly out in the morning, you get to the town, you find a Gold's Gym or you find a gym somewhere, you go train, come back, you eat, you go to the show. You have the show that night, you're done 10:30, go back to the hotel, hang out, have fun for a little while. Then you get on a plane the next morning and do the same thing. You fly to the town, you get there, you find a gym, you train, wash, rinse, and repeat.
Jeez.
And you do that throughout the weekend.
I can't imagine you're getting any sleep at this time too, because you're wired from the match. You get back to the hotel, you can't just sleep.
No. Well, look, I can really notice it's so crazy because now, if I'm on the road, and now like I'm I go to bed at 9:00, except for the nights that we have television and we have to work late. But yeah, to your point, look, you're done at the building at 10 or 10:30, and you are ready. You're ready to go. But it's amazing, young, youth will break down a lot of barriers.
Oh, yeah.
You could live on 4 or 5 hours sleep. But even again, if you're in bed by 2, 3 in the morning, you know what I mean? Depending on how long the flight is, you get a couple hours that night, you sleep on the flight, you know what I mean? You get up and you do the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
But youth is an amazing thing. It's crazy how much your body, and look, also what your body gets used to.
Yeah.
I'll say that it's you understand, and again, Julian, I'm sure you understand. You get to where your body's accustomed to being through a physical endeavor on a regular basis, and as long as you keep doing it, it's sort of that callousness that it keeps up. It's the minute you stop, if you ask me, and then you try to get back into it is the hard part.
The best way to stay in shape is never get out. That was always the thing.
Absolutely.
Because it was always those fucking 4 weeks of when you get out of shape after a season, you go party with the boys, and then you're so out of shape by the time you're like, I'm never getting out of shape again. You're throwing up. But I'm fascinated with you. You would find a gym in the towns you're in. So like now that I'm retired, I go do this gym life too, where you go to find an Equinox to get a workout in. And there's I never like it because you always have people sizing you up, especially they find out who you are. I could only imagine if you guys walked in all rocked up over there on the 150s doing some presses. Like, did people ever give you guys any shit in those gyms?
Well, so look, good fortune for me is I'm going into the gym. I'm going in there with Nash, who's 7 foot, 300 pounds. I'm going in there with Scott Hall, 6'8", 285. Hunter, 6'4", 250. So, and look, everybody knows you are. And for the most part, a lot of the times, it was a number of us. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a crew of guys going in there, and it doesn't take long. I think for the most part, everybody was pretty cool with the fact that we were there. You know what I mean? That was obviously good for their business to have us there. We had, at that time, there were mostly Gold's gyms. A lot of places, they were always really good to us. But for the most part, look, even if you had some people that kind of had a, stick in their ass, pardon my language, about you, you'd pay the $5 or the $10 to get the workout in, uh, you know, pay for tanning, whatnot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just whatever it took to get it done.
You talk about the tanning. As a hairy Jew, I appreciate the hairy chest representation. You were the only dude with chest hair, and Julian's brought this up. You could have looked more ripped if you shaved your chest, but you chose not to.
Yeah. Well, so look, I've never shaved my legs, my chest. Thank goodness my wife does my back now. So.
I got to get a
But
wife.
yeah, that was look. I don't know. So it was always. I don't know. That was just one of those things. I was never a bodybuilder. I got to be honest. The best shape I was in, I was really fortunate, I guess, to get that way. Like I said, it was just training and the guys I hung around. I never knew that much about diet and training. I just hung out with the guys. I ate the same thing they ate. I, train around the same time and with them. Honestly, it wasn't. I can remember getting one time really big and heavy. And, Kevin Nash and Scott, used to look at me and go like, hey, Shawn, like we're 280, 290. You can't match us meal for meal, beer for beer. You know what I mean? Like you're 215. You know what I mean? You can't, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's like, you can't eat that much. You can't, and I was like, all right, because I can eat. I'm a repressed fat kid living inside of me. That I tried, that I've had to keep slim and relatively in decent shape over the years. But I honestly didn't, never really knew that much about it. I wasn't as bright in the gym as the other guys were.
It was still,
I was never a gym rat.
yeah. I mean, it was still early too. I mean, the information age of, training and diet and recovery. I mean, no one really did it, even in our sport back. Probably in the 90s, it was starting to transform once you hit that, like the 2000s, mid 2000s, 2010s. But I can only imagine.
Think about that old diet complex they used to talk about, with the carbs and the this and the that. I mean, hell, that stuff's all wrong now. And, you didn't have, you just didn't have all the science behind it. You know what I mean? Respectfully, you're going by whatever Muscle and Fitness said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, and they're talking about guys that are doing the Olympia and obviously probably, having enhancement help here and there. You know what I mean? So you can eat about whatever you want.
I got to ask you, because first off, Sweet Chin Music, one of the most iconic finishers ever. The flying elbow beforehand, the stomp, everyone knows it. Comics, we shit on each other for each other's acts. We make fun of each other's jokes. Did your crew, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, would they ever make fun of your moves? Would you guys ball bust over that stuff?
Well, so yeah, well, we used to bust each other's balls over all sorts of stuff. Only stuff from an in-ring standpoint was, I don't know, stuff that we would, we'd see that we, would tell one another like, dude, don't do that again. You know what I mean? That's brutal. That sucks. I always tell a story about, Kevin Nash, big old huge guy, and I thought it was cool that he could leapfrog. You know what I mean? And so to watch this big dude leapfrog, and I had him doing it in a couple matches. And then one time, we're driving down the road and Scott Hall's in the back seat and he's like, hey, let me ask you a question. And Kevin and I are up front and we're like, all right, what is it? How come the biggest guy in the company avoids contact? And we sat there and thought about it. And I was like, man, you're right. I said, Kevin, don't ever leapfrog again. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. Yeah, there were just times that, we would call it monitor time, where on TV days, you'd sit there and you'd watch guys' matches and you just rip them to shreds. You know what I mean? Just, you pick apart little things that, they saw wrong and stuff like that. So we did that. We did that a bunch with one another. But it's like anything. It was like a locker room full of athletes. So there was, a fair amount of ribbon and messing around going on behind the scenes.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's crazy. Now, we all know the famous song Sexy Boy. I don't know if did you write that song?
No,
but you sang it.
Jimmy Hart. Yes, I ended up singing it. Jimmy Hart wrote it, and originally Sensational Sherry sung it. And then Jimmy Hart came to me one time. He's like, "Hey, baby, look, we're thinking we got this great idea. Maybe you sing your song." And I said, "Jimmy, God, I can't carry a note. Dude." I said, "My voice is deep." I said, "I can't sing it all." He says, "Don't you worry, we'll get in the studio. We've got all the stuff that we can do. We can fix it." And I was like, "All right. I mean, I'll give it a try." But yeah, so I mean, look, I can't carry a note to save my life. But they somehow, they do all that cool stuff they do with music. And look, when I was going through this process of that song and my character and everything else, in the theater of your mind, you're picturing yourself being maybe a bit more, I don't know, like manly, and a bit more like, I figured it would be like, I don't know, be more of kind of a rougher, tougher, ass kicking type guy. But then all of a sudden I turned into this, I don't know, this dude wearing assless chaps and shaking my ass and dancing and half strip teasing and stuff like that. But the more I did it, the more natural, the better it felt. And I could just really, I don't know, unleash and just sort of become whatever it is I wanted. But I never imagined it that way. And same with the music. It just got to where it ended up just being perfect for me. But it was not my idea by any stretch. It was just something that sort of happened and that I morphed into with the music and with the gear. And the more I went out there with Sherry, the more comfortable I got with it. And it just became, I don't know, to where me and the character were, damn near identical.
That's the best when it comes off. I mean, authenticity, especially I've been working with an acting coach. It's not about right or wrong. It's about truth and beliefs, or beliefs and I don't know, something like that. But
he's not paying attention.
Not paying attention. Sorry.